Alrighty. Welcome back to the You Can Too podcast. On today's show, we have former NFL athletes turned American Ninja Warrior. We have Anthony Trucks on the show, now an entrepreneur and doing some amazing things in the world of identity. Anthony, for those who may not be aware of who you are, they're going to know by the end of the show. I know that for damn sure. Can you give us a brief overview of who Anthony Trucks is?
Yeah, he's a guy that he's on the podcast right now. Hey, everybody! No, he's I'm a few things, man. I am a man of God. I'm a husband. I'm a father. But at the other side of the world where I show up in terms of my value brought to the world outside my home, I'm a speaker, I'm an author, I'm a coach, and I teach people how to do the dark work to make shift happen, which is an identity thing, an identity shift I work towards. The how is kind of my special sauce. But yeah, that's me, man. A whole lot more inside we'll unpack, I'm sure, but that's the core of my humanity.
Amen, brother. I'm grateful again to have you here. I know that your childhood was a big point in time where it shaped you to become who you are. And I think that diving into a little bit of your childhood to realize that I think a lot of people use their circumstances in life as a crutch to kind of hold back from achieving a life that they want to create. I know that Mr. Howell's English class was a big shift.
Mr. Howell, we shared a birthday.
No way.
Yeah, man, we share a birthday. Yeah, but you're right. It's the situations are either a crutch or a catalyst, man. It's one of the two, but you get to choose. But yeah, Mr. Howell was a big moment where that took place.
What in that moment in time, I know that there was a girl that was on the side that was kind of just used that as a crutch, and it kind of really realized in your mind and actualized in your life where like, oh, I don't want to use this as an excuse. Yeah. Like, where did that change in your paradigm in the world?
Yeah, we've been on hundreds of podcasts. I have. And I've yet to have anyone actually ask this question or even anything about Mr. Howell. So,
Didn't I tell you?
Well done, sir. So this is what it was. It was a situation in the classroom, and so let's give a little quick lead up, real quick. I was given away into foster care at a really young age.
Yeah.
Ended up in this family, very poor, all white family. At this point in time, I'd been through 11 years of the system, adopted at 14, tried football, was no good, and gave up. But I wanted to be great, but it was just too hard. Then Mr. Howell's English class, there's two girls are talking, and they don't know I'm listening to them. And one girl says, the other girl says, the reason I'm so bad is because I'm in foster care. And at face value, it's like the simple statement, but what it was the internal excuse I've been giving myself for checking out. Yeah. So all of us have something that's an excuse that we've given to ourselves to allow ourselves to sleep well at night. You know what? I couldn't do it because, man, all of a sudden Jupiter was ascending and the moon from Mars, like just these things we make up, you know? And the reality is, it's like none of that matters. Either you did or you didn't do it. If the excuse is bigger than the dream, then you'll never get the dream. So excuse routed around in my head. I remember going home and I had this moment of clarity of like, I don't want to be the guy that says the reason anything is because I was in foster care, crutch or catalyst.
Amen.
I'd been using it as a crutch. Foster kid, actually statistically, 75% of any inmates in prison in America are former foster kids. It's like that was going to be a great crutch, and most people do use it as that. But I was like, it's going to be a catalyst, man. So I looked myself in the eyes in a mirror in my bedroom, and I said, I'm going to be great. And that was it. It was this internal like anchoring to myself of I was going to find a way to be great at this game of football. I had no clue what it looked like, but that was the starting point. For me, it was that moment where that girl said that thing. And I hope we're all given a gift at some point in time of the excuse out loud, because when you hear someone state your excuse out loud, you get to hear how stupid it sounds, and it should unsettle you in the right way.
1000%. Something I speak with clients is like you record a voice memo to yourself, and then that's not the only action though. It's actually to listen back to it and to hear yourself, to hear about you complaining and actually hear about what you just said. Because going through that is like the shift in mentality, like you said, it's hearing it out loud to realize that, whoa, like I've been living my life this entire time playing a victim. I know that throughout that period of time, there's so much trauma and like torture and so much that went through to create to who you are today. I'm curious what your internal narrative was prior to that point in time where it was like that shift actually first happened.
It's the same as everybody's kind of internal narrative. Like, this is hard. Don't want to do this. Is it going to work out? Is it worth my time or energy? What else could I be doing? And if it's not a conscious thought, it's a subconscious thought of, this is uncomfortable. Well, let's find something else. And so we seek ease, right? If I have a day of work I'm supposed to do, I can easily subconsciously be drawn to my living room, onto my couch, and all of a sudden I wake up 30 minutes into my TV show, like, what am I supposed to be working? And this is the thing. This is why people don't have success, because their mind is not in their control. Unfortunately, it's in the control of the devices that they're pulling at their brain because they've subjected it to it, got addicted to it in some manner. And now that thing is running your life. And so for me, it was the same mentality that everybody runs into. And it was this, I want this, But I know at the core of me, if I was to stop and pause and I admit to myself, I didn't want it as bad as I stated that I wanted it. It was just words out there. And there's a great line by Drake, and he says, there are more people that want it than people that got it. And that sticks with me. He's not a philosopher, but a great true statement, because everybody wants it, but so few people actually have it.
It's so true. It's so true. And a lot, like you said, a lot of people, you can either use it as a crutch or a catalyst. And I love that mentality for things, because I find that your power is in your perspective of your experience, right? It's not the experience in itself, but it's the perspective that you have on it. It's like Viktor Frankl and Man's Search for Meaning. It shifts everything. And I know a big book for me that really shifted my perspective on my self-image, my identity, was Psycho-Cybernetics. It changed the way that I looked at myself. I'm curious for you, were there any few books? I know in 2014 was when you really jumped into personal development. Was there any books or like anything that you went to that really helped you even become conscious of that?
One of them. Frank was one of them. Stephen Covey's 7 Habits was a good one. There's a lot, man. There's the Alchemist. There's a whole bunch. You know what's a good one? I'm thinking through 2 of them that I think are good. Is one is Outwitting the Devil, Napoleon Hill.
Yeah.
And another one that I like was Michael Singer's Untethered Soul. That was a good one, because that's a good identity book, because the conversation rolls into a place that I don't think people really get into. Because I guess when we talk identity, the way I framed it, like my own personal definition is, it's who you are when you aren't thinking about who you are. It's the way you flow, way you show up. And to be honest, I don't think you can have a dream that is below a certain identity, above a certain identity. So if I have an identity that is down here, I can't get what that one has up there. So my dream, I must have the identity that dream gets to have. And Singer talks about this idea of like the separation, like there's you inside of you. And the way that he logically states it, I guess from what I gather, was he goes, you ever had that moment where something happens, you in your own head, you go, hey, why would you do that, bro? Why would you say it like that? You stupid. So like, as a matter of fact, the other day I was on not a podcast. I was on an interview for a speech yesterday, and I said this thing, and the last 24 hours, my brain's been talking to me like, why'd you say that? Did they going to get you to, what if you cost yourself the entire gig because of that one? And so I say that to go, inside of you, there is a version of you that is the true core you. Yeah. When we look at you in the world, we get to see what your expression is. Because I express myself differently with you here, than with my wife, than with my kids. When I'm in a coaching call on a stage, it's a different expression of my identity. It's still me, but it's the part that part of me chose to express to you right now. And so for me, the way I look at it is like that is the core thing we all need to navigate, pay attention to, understand. Because when you do, it gives you different control. Because then the whole shy thing, there are people who like in public, they're shy, but behind closed doors, they're open. Like, you're not exactly shy. What you are is you aren't choosing to express that identity that already exists in you in the public for whatever reason. We can talk to what that is, but that exists in everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love it so much, man. And I know when I think it was, you were 14, you were just able to start playing football. And during that period of time, it was like you made the conscious decision to actually take action and actually follow. Like you asked yourself, like, what would an NFL player do?
Yeah.
You started throwing up the ball 500 times a day, like doing all the drills, doing all the things. Like it's action that precedes or results that precedes like that identity that you create. So like, was that the first moment?
Yeah. I mean, I think you need proof, right? You have to have proof of your ability. I think it's the big thing where people have this imposter syndrome. They haven't have proof of doing the work, even if it's not proof on a stage, but you've done the work, right? Because then there's a mentality you have that's different. So it's not the fake it till you make it, but it is a buildup of process, right? I think we sometimes the fake it till you make it is an identification with the outcome, not the effort. When I have this identification with the outcome, I have to fake it because I'm not at the outcome yet. But if I can identify with the efforts, like I wasn't the guy that was like, I'm the best football player in the world. No, but I did say like, I'm the guy who got up the last 30 days straight and threw a football in the air 500 times. And part of that was to develop a skill. Like part of the work you do is to develop a skill set. But the other part of it is to develop the brazenness to deploy that skill set when you need to. I can catch a ball all day long, but if I do it in a way where I feel I've driven myself to like be great, when I'm a football field, I actually catch that thing no matter what's around me, who's covering me, because I've not only am I able to do it, but like, damn it, you don't have the right to stop me. How many times I throw this ball in the air? Like, bro, I'm thousands deep, like hundreds of thousands of balls deep. There's no way you're going to stop me from doing this right now. And so that was kind of the progression of how I looked at like my journey for at least that window of time, but it also unfolds for everybody else the same way, and it unfolded for me differently too. But I believe there's just a mentality you get. And for me, the identity I had was like this dominant mentality. Like I had this desire. I wanted to dominate the football field, dominate the classroom, dominate my health. I was a dominator, but that was fueled by a mentality. And the mentality is what I call a dark work mentality at that age. I didn't know what it was till 30 some years old. But at that age, I go, that's what that was back then. This mindset of I've done too much work in the dark for you to take what is mine in the light. Wasn't happening. I've done that. I've already paid the price. I'm just collecting what's due to me now. And that looks like arduous, misunderstood, ridiculed work in the background, in the dark. But the more you do it, the more it becomes who you are, the more you'll actually compete with conviction in moments that are necessary for whatever you want in your life. So at 14, at that age, 14, 15, I was putting work in, unaware of what it was turning into, not just in my skill set, but my identity.
Yeah. Yeah. And I find that for me, like my definition of success is merely acting. It's not the result of it, but it's if I'm showing up doing the thing I said I was going to do, I'm winning. Regardless, like at the level that you're at right now, like you've surpassed what anyone coming from foster care would dream of doing. 1% graduates from high school or college. Like, what's your definition of success at the level of life that you're at now?
Control, man. Someone just asked this question today on a podcast I was on before. It was, it's just control, man. Here's why. You can have freedom, and people say freedom. I get that. But you can be free to choose your job, yet in that freedom, you choose a job you hate, you have to go to. Freedom to get yourself into a mortgage you can't pay, or you have to stress yourself out to pay. Freedom to choose the guy or girl you're with. But there's a difference between freedom and control. Because freedom says I can choose and I have the option to. Control is like, no, my choice is the final choice. Nothing else sits above me. Like today, like I got up this morning, and because of the way that I control my life, the way I've lived in the ability to make revenue and to impact lives and show up and serve honestly of integrity, I got up at 5:30, did some work that I wanted to do before 6:30. My son and I got up. We took a hike to the top of a hill, 7 minutes at the top of the hill. You could see around for 20 miles. We do this gratitude spin, speak out loud what we're grateful for. We pray on that. We come back down. We do a cold plunge for 2 minutes. Then we do a 10-minute lead meditation in the spa. And it's this thing where like I'm able to give them a hug at the end, say I love you. And then I took them all to school, my daughter and my son, dropped my wife's car off at the shop, came home and started my workday. Like that is me controlling my life. I can do what I want when I want. I'm not saying I can go outside and like go streaking up the street. I'm not, but that the case is like I have a life that's in my control. I'm not asking someone for 2 weeks off. If I want to move something, I can. Like that's kind of the thing. And that for me, it doesn't have to be $10 billion. That could be $10,000 for some people. It could be $1,000 for somebody. So it's not a monetary tie. It doesn't have to include specific other people. So it doesn't have to be like, oh, I know this person and that person and that person. It doesn't matter who I know. They're not waking up in my household, right? So there's a dynamic that I have control to be able to create the life that I personally want. And that for me is success.
I love it. I love it. I find a question that James Clear asked, and it sticks in the front of my mind at all times, is what are you optimizing for, right? Like where there's times and phases of life where we're optimizing for a monetary growth or personal growth or like spiritual growth, whatever that is. And you're at the point now where it's like control is your definition of success. What are the less obvious reasons that you have found success?
Yeah, I'm not a hard charger. I think there is that mentality that people see me going super hard all the time, but I'm not. It's got to be this balance between the energy you give to where you actually can sharpen the sword and keep doing it. So like I gave the whole explanation of what I do before, when the kids go to school. But when I get to this office, I'm popped in the studio, I'm locked. I'm loaded. I do my thing, and I'm incredibly efficient and effective right here. And so, yes, I do. I get more done probably in a day than most people get done in a week because of the way that I tick and roll, and I'm fluid. I can change. It's a muscle that's been built up, though. It's not like I just had this day one. I built and built and built and built. And so a decade later, I can go fast. And in that, I'm effective in the fast. But then when 245 hits, I'm off, man. I don't hard charge in my family. I don't go crazy in all the areas. Like I do what I need to do to be able to be at peace and actually appreciate the roses and all the flowers along the journey of life. Cause this is life. But I talk to my wife about it all the time. When we get in bed, I go, hey, this is actually life. Just so you know, like us watching this show, sitting here in the bed, like this is actually life with the kids on the couch, or like I'm working out with them. Like this is life. It's not the Instagram photo we took and the collage that has the whole thing of, that unfortunately is moments and it's a recollection of life and you're looking back, but that's not life, man. But if I lived my life at that 9.5, 10 all day long, I don't care who you are. Eventually it gets to the point of like, you either miss things or you don't appreciate those things. So there is a misconstrued perspective of like, I'm crazy going all day long. It's not the case. I shut down. And when I shut down, I'm off, right? But when I'm on, I'm on.
Yeah, that's the mindset for me. Like in my beginning of entrepreneurship, it was like always on go and there was no boundaries that were in place. Was it always that way for you?
No, I mean, yeah. Oh yeah. There's always, it's been different. It was, so now it's not always been this way. It's been the way you described. I think you have to go through that to get a chance to appreciate it, because you always have that desire of like, what it's like to go crazy hard and just, but I have kids, man. I've always had kids. I've always had stuff going on. And so there was a window of time when that was a necessity and possible, you know, but then when life changes, it's not realistic. Cause then what are you doing it for? Right. Say I do push hard, go crazy, say I make $10 million this month, you know, all right, cool. Well, who am I going to share it with? Like money isn't a very good companion if it's just money. And they say some people are so poor, all they have is money. And so I've looked at my life in a way where I go, I want to make sure that I'm developing amazing relationships with the people that are close to me alongside my journey, so that when I do make the money, like my wife still loves me, wants to spend it with me. You know, my kids still know their father. I can take them on trips and do stuff, and they want to be there with me. Like my kids, it's awesome. Like we have such close relationships that they choose us over their friends oftentimes. And we're not doing craziness. Literally, a lot of times just we sit at the house and watch TV shows, but I'm present with them at the TV show. We're playing games at the table. Like my son's off in college right now, and we FaceTimes us randomly all the time. Like, what's up, Pops? I got some time to kill. Like he wants to talk to us. And it's not that we're, you know, like I don't make him do it. I don't pay him money. I don't talk about craziness. I'm present with him. So that's a big thing for me, is like that. When I look at it, it's making sure you have an understanding that yes, there's going to be windows of time when you do that, but you'll get to a point where you realize, man, there's only so much I could do with work, that even if I had the most success possible, that it may not be what I desire. And again, this is my choice. There's got to be people out there right now that go, you know what? I want a private jet. Cool, man. Go get your private jet. I don't care. I'm not going to tell you not to. I'm going to help you get it if you ask for questions on how to do that, right? Just on Anthony's thing.
Yeah, I'm right with you on that as well. I found that like placing boundaries, like after this, I'm done for the day. It's just like, it's really placing boundaries to figure out when I'm working, that's when I'm working. When I'm not working, that's when I'm not working. Mm-hmm. And I find the mindset is like, you have to enjoy the day, not the destination. We get so caught on where we want to be that we don't enjoy where we already are. And that's a skill in itself. Like, I'm curious for you, throughout that period of time, like you've been in this space for a while, like what skill do you wish you developed earlier?
So the way you turn it off is not by turning it off, but actually switching gears. There's like a little demon in us, man. The demon wants to work. He wants to do everything. And I think that somebody one time told me, they said, if I locked you in a room for 30 days, you didn't have to eat, didn't have to sleep, you could just work all day long. They said, you'd leave that room with more things to do than you went into it with. Because we have ideas and they keep popping up. The more you do something, the more it could be done, right? So he says, you have to choose like what works most important. And so in that journey of doing that, you start getting this idea of like, oh, this is crazy. But then you also realize that there's got to be a piece to it all. I think I lost the question just for a split second. Then I lost it because I'm thinking about this. What was the core question right there? Because I knew where I want to go.
What skill do you wish you developed?
There you go. And so that skill is, when I look at the idea of focus of what I'm doing, when you exit the work period, it's not about trying to turn it off and sit down and go, okay, don't think about it. Don't think about it. You don't do that because you're going to think about not thinking about it. Like my kid, if I want my kids to be more active, right? They're playing video games. I don't tell them get off the video games, because they're just going to get off the video games and perseverate over the video games. I want to get on the video games. I can't get on the video. Dad, can I get back on the video? That's all they do, right? But if I say, hey, why don't you go outside and shoot 100 hoops? Now they're shooting 100 hoops. Because they're focused now on like their feet position, their hand, and the ball going in the hoop. It's the idea of video games has completely exited their mind. And so for us, when I want to leave work, it's not about going, okay, I'm going to go in the room and I'm not going to think about work, not think about work. I need to take my brain to something else to give it activity. I like doing things in my hands. Matter of fact, before I got on this, I just finished hanging 3 new shelves in my studio because I needed more room to put stuff that people send me, like little trophies, right? And I love that work. I just put some, matter of fact, I put some Hormozy in the background for some sales conversation stuff. It's just, that's my music, you know, so it's just there, but that's my space of just kind of like pulling away. I'm not thinking about work, although I kind of was in that space, but then like my kids get home, we go to the gym. I'm just thinking about their technique for squats. They bench pressing properly. You know, if it's going to be with the wife, like what's the show we're watching? Do I remember the show we were watching? Or I could be doing something with, you know, we're planning some trip somewhere. but my brain isn't trying to not think about work. It's thinking about something in place of that work.
Yeah, it's not removing it, but it's replacing it. It's like any bad habit. Like you're not going to be able to just remove it, but you replace it with something else that takes your mind off of the old thing that you used to be doing.
Your mind will naturally get. I mean, here's what when I used to have bad days, I would get my motorcycle and just go driving. And the reason I would do that is not because I wanted to go fast. I'm not a fast kind of bike. I was safe. But it's very hard to be worried about your problems and worried about every other driver on the road, the stoplights, balancing, it makes your grips good, switching the gears with your feet. Like that stuff. It's almost impossible to have the problems enter your mind. Mm-hmm. So I would have a reprieve from the crazy, and I would actually feel lighter when I would get home, and I had a calmer mind to focus on the problem at hand. When I did approach it again, I got through it quicker.
Yeah. I find that belief is something that is, and this is the core basis of the podcast, is belief is something that holds so many people back. They don't believe they can do it. So if you don't believe if you can't do it, you're not going to behave in ways to actually make it happen. Growing up in the position that you were in, so many different homes, so many different experiences, like torture, like all of the things, like what made you believe that what you could do in the world was possible?
Nothing. I had no belief I could. I'm being honest, man. I'm not even being like playful or facetious. There was not a belief back then that I would play in the NFL. There was not a belief back then that I would do great, go to college. There was no belief. When I started working, the only belief I have was that if I don't do something different, I do not like where I'm headed.
Yeah.
That was that simple. And I think that could be the same thing for everybody if they chose to. Because a lot of us, you don't have the proof of you doing that thing. So why would you logically believe you can do that thing? It actually does make common sense. And so I go, that imposter, that thought, that's actually, that's a valid one, we'll call it. But then there's an interesting thing that I think takes place as you get older that should take place. So when you start this process of going, well, I know that this is a place I'm heading. I don't like it, but I believe if nothing changes, I'm going there. So I should just do something else. So you start doing other things just to avoid doing that. And in that process, you start doing things that end up oddly becoming, I guess, better for you, more skilled. If obviously it's a better direction, you're going towards, you'll be faced with things that don't feel comfortable, don't feel like they're your current identity. That's the idea of the identity you have. Like you dream cannot supersede your identity or you don't get the dream, right? Mm. And you go down that path towards doing it. And eventually you start seeing these things you didn't think were you at first now become who you are to do it. And you do it more and you do it more. And then eventually you get great at something. And you're like, man, I'm pretty good at this, whatever it might be. And then here's this interesting thing that takes place for people that get farther in life. They look at something new and go, oh, I'm suck at that. I can't do that. I'm never going to even try it. I can't do it. And I go, why? They go, because I'm not going to be great at that. They're going to see me not be great. And it's interesting because the more success you have, the less likely people are to keep pushing because it might detract from their current viewpoint of success or their current, we'll call it world's perspective of them. So they get all tied into this bubble of like, all right, I can't do anything, and they don't take more risk. But here's a crazy thing. One, you should try that thing. And here's why. You should try it because it interests you. And also because while you should question your ability to be great at this thing right now, you should never question your ability to get great. Because that's the thing, is like you've gotten great at something already, which means you have the skill sets to get great at something. And that's the greatest skill set. So just go apply that concept there. If I'm a farmer, right, and I've never farmed before, and I spend the first 5 years of my life trying to get my first crop that's perfect of apples. I go, great. I got my first crop of apples done. And someone goes, you want to grow oranges? Oh, bro, I could never grow oranges. No, you can't. You're a farmer, bro. What are you talking about? No, man, I just grow apples. Seriously, Ant? Think about what it probably takes to grow the oranges. What, huh? What are you going to till the soil, right? Yeah. Going to plant some seeds, right? Yeah. You're going to go ahead and put some irrigation. Yeah. You're going to go ahead and, make sure you take pruning all the different things off. Yeah. Okay. Then what's different from apples and oranges? But it's apples and oranges. No, it's not, man. It's the same kind of concept. It's the same orchard of stuff. If you apply the process, what took you 5 years will probably only take you 5 months. But you're so deathly afraid of this thing you don't know because it's a different fruit, when the reality is it's never been about the fruit. It's about the farmer. And so if you could understand that is something you already have in you, man, you have less craziness or apprehension towards trying that thing. And then you just identify with the effort, not the outcome. And you put effort in, and eventually, little by little, you get amazing at that thing. You stack that over and over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah. I love hearing you speak because this kind of stuff just lights me up inside, and hearing you talk about identity with like, that's just your main thing. I'm curious, what do you believe where most people go wrong when it comes to trying to shift their identity?
There's a lot of things, but I think the first one is when they go to shift the identity, there's not a focus on what identity they're shifting into.
Yeah.
They go, I'm gonna go and I heard I got to work out. I heard I got to stop doing this. And I'm like, okay, well, let's say you start following that, I don't know, the bodybuilder you love on Instagram. You start following him. I got to be like this guy. And you get there and you go, man, I'm doing this thing, but I don't like the way I feel. Or like, this guy drinks a lot. He smokes a lot. Or he's not, very kind to women or men, like whatever it might be. And you might realize, like, as much as I like that trait, I didn't like the actual full identity. And so you have to step back and choose, honestly, like pick and choose the parts of people's worlds and identities you want. Like, I like The Rock. I like how he shows up for his family. I like the kind of way he has integrity. I do not like his work schedule. I don't want to be gone for 7 to 10 months. Like, see my kid. I got 24 hours at home. Like, what? Hell no. So, but that's the thing, is I pull the things I want. And so a lot of people don't do that. What they do is they go towards something with this activity of like, I'm going to shift my identity, but they have no idea who they're supposed to be. So at some point, there's not this intention that keeps going or motivation to stay the course, because there's no clear end point, we'll call it. And then on top of that, they will sometimes get to a destination and go, I hate who I am. This is Bob, who goes and gets a job, and Bill's his boss, and because Bill's the boss, Bob wants to be like Bill. So he lives the next 10 years being like Bill. And then Bob wakes up and goes, I hate my life. And then he looks over at Bob, and Bob's like, what do you mean, man? And Bob's all fat, and his wife has left him, and he's going to go to the bar tonight, and he's doing stuff. And it's like, damn, I never thought about the fact that maybe I never wanted to really be Bill. I just wanted what Bill had. Right. So it's the idea that, like, you can become a millionaire, and you can be a millionaire that's a horrible human, or a millionaire that's an amazing human. It's just, who are you as you get that? So I think some people go towards this goal and destination also never thinking about who they're going to be when they arrive there.
Yeah, it's gaining a lot more clarity on like what that actually looks like. It's like success as well. We see on social media what success, quote unquote, looks like, is this definition that's so broad of this idea of what it looks like. And the same thing goes for identity. I know there's three steps that you walk people through when it comes to shifting their identity. Do you mind going through what that looks like?
And they've adjusted a little bit, because one of the other things we'll call the third piece is you have to do dark work. I talk a lot about what you do in the dark allows you to shine in the light. I talked to it like as a kid, and it's kind of gone through my life. That light is your identity in the spotlight, right? And we can all step into the light, but some people, they shine brighter. They just do. Like, you can look at every basketball player that's ever played the game. Some are in the light, but they ain't all shining like Michael, LeBron, Kobe. You know what I'm saying? So like, well, what makes them like that? And I promise you, to the core of the core, it's the work that no one saw them do, that they were doing in the dark, that allowed them to develop the skill and the brazenness to deploy that skill. And there are 3 steps to how this rolls out. Now, there's a lot of intricacies to it. In fact, I'm going to talk you through this process, but realize that I can't give it all to you in a setting. It's not enough time, right? But once you do it properly, like it's a game, it'll change your life. 1000% will change your life. Not just because of the execution, but at a neurological and psychological level. When I talk about the light, the identity, I believe right now we're all in a light. You're in a light, I'm in a light, right? If we were given a situation or problem, there's actually a way that we process neurologically and psychologically. And if I was, for example, if I grew up and me and you grew up, say I had a dog that bit me as a kid. Well, that dog biting me makes me fear dogs. I'm wired psychologically and neurologically. You grew up with a dog that was amazing. So you see, a dog. When you see a dog, right? Same kind of dog. It's just the different experiences. That's the key part. The experiences. That's the only way we get wired. You experience something, you get wired for certain things, psychologically and even neurologically. How you may start sweating and getting all antsy, and your heart might start racing. Neurological stuff because of a dog. Whereas you might have this, oh my gosh, and love, your face gets beat red. I can't do that. I'm black. But you know what happens is it gets to that whole level. So the idea is, there's a wiring that allows you to be in that current identity. So again, if you want to raise that, what do we have to do? Experiences. You have to go through a process to experience something to rewire. We do it one of 2 ways. You do it on demand, when crap hits the fan. When crap hits the fan, is like 99% of people. I lost the money, lost the job, lost the wife, I got hurt, whatever it is. Now I got to find a way to do it. Or you do it intentionally, subject yourself intentionally. That's why you see certain people go, man, I'm saying discipline. I'm going to the gym. I'm reading this book. That's the on-demand portion of it. But people can mess that up and do it improperly.
Yeah.
The 3 steps, I'm going to give the steps what they are now. I think, what the old ones used to be. We don't got to go deep. It's still the same kind of process, but the language became different, because I found that no one woke up today and when I want to make an identity shift, nobody does.
Yeah.
But the process is more sexy. If I go like, I'm going to teach you how to fall in love with doing the dark work so you can shine in the light. People go, oh, I get that. Right. It's just that we've all done it. But here's the steps you need to go through. The first one's respect the light. The way you respect the light's very interesting. The first one is you must respect the light by first yourself respecting what your actual dream and vision is. Mm-hmm. What do you want? Not what you want to say, you want what your mom to say, your dad would say. Like, what do you want? Even if it's counterintuitive or opposite of them, what do you actually want for yourself? Respect that part of you and go, I want this because I'll protect what I create. If I create the dream, I'll protect it and go see it. If it's somebody else's dream, I don't care if it dies. Then I must respect the people who are living in that light. It's a big piece of it, because if I don't respect what that those people are and how they've got there, I might not like how they got there. But if I downplay what they did to get there, I'll never get there because I'll miss something amazing in there. Because respect is to have deep admiration, right? So if I don't admire what they've done, I'm not going to accomplish a goal even similar to it. Mm-hmm. So it's really just having respect for what that is. The third thing is of the same respect. You must respect. This is a key one here. Respect the identity you must be to get there. Because that person, right, that's who they are, but there's got to be an identity that must be respected for who you have to become to get that. If you don't take a breath and step back and go, all right, I want to be a salesperson, but I absolutely hate talking to people. Good luck. Like it's going to be tough. If you don't identify with that, we got a problem. That's a weird dream. The idea is to go, okay, I have to identify with the actions of what that goal has. So once you have that, is like you clarify what it is. The last part of respecting is respect the gravity of the dream. Because the dream itself is going to be heavy. It's going to be a lot. And if you get halfway through this thing, there's a certain point in time when it's going to be like this thing. I love this mountain, climbing a mountain mentality. I climbed a mountain years ago in Colorado. And there was a point in time when they go, oh, just so you know, once we get past this marker, the only way down is up. I go, what do you mean? They go, well, if you get like 1,000 feet up, we get still like 5,000 feet to go. They go, if you go 5,000 feet up, you're going to have to go down thousands of feet to get out. So the fastest way to go down is to go back up. You're in it. You're in the mid. There's no turning back kind of thing. And so for a lot of us, we don't have the gravity of understanding that moment's going to take place. And so if you get to that moment and you back out, you've wasted time. And no one wants to waste time. So you must respect the gravity of what this is, to lean in and go, I'm in for the long haul. I don't care if the only way down is up. I'm going up and I'm going to keep fighting to get through it. Second portion of this, another place. This is how it rolls. Once you get to the point of saying, I respect those things, the second portion is I must do the dark work. And that's a very, very important key piece of it. The reason why is because a lot of individuals, they'll say they want to do the work, but they hate the process. They want the outcome, don't love the process. And the process has to be something you have a almost palpable, like it got to taste sweet to you. Like pain has a sweetness to me now. Like I could almost taste it on my tongue. It sounds creepy, I know, but there's a thing where I just love that the work of it.
Yeah.
And the way that you do it is you do it properly by setting yourself up to work, right? So the first thing is you must design your dark. And by design your dark, I mean you must design what your dark work experience will look like. Is it a morning routine? Is it a certain thing you do at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock? Is there a certain thing you stop doing? Is it a certain people you interact with now? What does that look like for you to say, when I do this, this will be the stuff that I do. It's very hard to fuel me in the light. So you do that stuff. The second part is you make what's called a dark work declaration. You make a contract with yourself. You declare two things. I declare very clearly what it is I just accomplished over this period of time. If it's 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever it is, you must write down to your future self, like from your future self talking, if you want to call it that, what I just did. I just got done doing 30 days or whatever. That's the contract. It's not just saying, I'm going to do it. You describe to me what you just did. I want you to, so when I pick this thing up, I can look at it and go, man, future me was spot on. I just did that and it was hard, right? The second part of the declaration is what you will now do. Because now that you're this person, you've created this identity, you won't sit still. You can't. You're just somebody different. You're somebody different now in a good way. What does that future look like? Now that I've got this done, I will accomplish this and this and this. Now set goals from a different level of confidence, of self-esteem, of belief we mentioned before. Then once you've done that, third piece of the doing the dark work is go dark. Just go dark. I mean, literally turn the lights off and tuck away. So many people get to this realm of what we live in now. Let me show everybody what I'm doing all the time. Show me your process. I like Gary Vee, but I think that's actually, it's neurologically the wrong thing to do, to document everything. And here's why. If I want to develop a skill and be in process, I need time to melt away. I got to be so immersed in this that I've lost 3 or 4 hours because I'm so into it, right? And the way you do that is by being focused and productive. Now, we have in our brain something called the mirror neuron system. And in fact, what happens is if I am working by myself, I'm focused and productive. The moment I put someone else into the room with me, my brain energy goes to, Am I tapping my foot too loud? Am I clicking the pen too much? Am I breathing too much? Do I smell? Do they think what my clothes look like? When you're thinking all that, it's hard to focus the same way and be immersed in something. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is this happens with someone in the room, but also it happens if there's a camera in the room. Because think about it. While it's not a person, your brain goes, oh, that's a person later, though. So I can't be focused. So I go dark, just disappear. Because every single person that we all follow at a high level, your Tony Robbins, let's say, who do we know in our space? Grant Cardone's, who else is in our space? Elon Musk, who else is I'm trying to think of basketball players, LeBron, right? All these people, Goggins, right? Yeah. These people who we now know, we didn't know what they were doing 10 years ago. We didn't know. You didn't know. I mean, go look back, rewind the tapes, 10 years, go back 15 years. You know what they were doing. They write books on what they did in the dark. That's what it is. But that had to take place to shine how they shine. So for a lot of us, we're so afraid of, I got to build an audience. If you're dope, the audience will be attracted to you, but you can't get dope if you don't have anything to talk about. And that comes from what you do in the dark. So go dark. Third part, last piece, we said, respect the light, do the dark work, emerge. When you emerge, it needs to be a point in time where you declare, you read that declaration. This is who I am, what I've done. So you're anchored. And now you compete with conviction for what you want most. Because this is where it comes to nothing matters but the moment that it matters. You've done that work, right? And I hope you did it properly. There's a way you do all that. The whole thing of designing it, that's where my whole company comes into play. And we do that. That's the magic of the process, right? Let's design this, keep you accountable. You do the dark work with us. But then you will have a moment where you emerge, you're into the world now. At that moment, when you have hey, you know what? I really want to launch this company. I want to get this podcast off the ground. I want to get a promotion. I want to marry that woman. I don't care what it is. At that moment, there's going to be a point in time when the old you goes, oh, we're not supposed to do this, Aunt. We're not supposed to. And you have to go, I don't care what we used to think. I am competing for this because I know what we just did. I am not letting that go to waste. I have invested too much to lose in the light, period. And so for us, when we show up in that light, now I want you to pursue that thing you said you were going to and compete with it, compete for it with conviction. So that when your life is looking in the rear of your mirror and you look to see, am I amazing? You have proof. You can go, I'm amazing. I'm dope. No one can take what is mine. And that becomes a vastly different identity. It's not even hard anymore. It's just who you are. People look at you and go, well, you arrogant? What's wrong with you? No, I'm just incredibly confident. I think was his name, Deion Sanders says, don't let my confidence, don't say cause pain or discomfort to your lack of self-esteem. I don't know. I messed it up. He said it way cleaner than me, but he's like, Don't let my sense of confidence diminish whatever you got going on. It's not an attack on you. That's just you looking at me going, I wish he had what he had. And so for me, that's what I want people to have, because when you have that, that's a dominator identity. I will dominate the boardroom, the classroom. I'm going to dominate the sales competition. I'm going to dominate in the field, in the game, right? But that is fueled by a dark work mentality, which means that when me and you come to the line, me and you get to the boardroom, me and you come, whatever it is, I've done too much work in the dark to lose in the light.
No words. I love what you say, because you broke it down in such a good way. I don't think identity is talked nearly enough, and that's why I wanted to have you on the show as well, because not many people in social media to begin with talks about identity shifting. And when we go through life, we perceive ourselves. There's a question that I've been asking myself recently that I really love, and you might resonate with it as well, is who would I be without the stories in my head? And we live this life based on this idea of who we think we are throughout our entire life. And so I think we keep our goals at an arm's length away because we don't see ourselves as the kind of person that can do that thing. And so we see ourselves as a person that's always on the cusp of achieving our goals. And so then we never do it. Is that something that, I find for you, at least from hearing what you just said right there, it's creating that proof, right? And then also just taking the action and doing all the things. But is there a point of reflection throughout that period of time that you're thinking, well, let me reflect on my wins throughout this day to actually see oh, I actually did do this thing?
I think that there's always Atomic Habits, James Clear's you have to be able to accomplish something, get a small win, you keep going. And the problem is I think it plays to our weaker minds. It plays to our weaker selves, which says that if I don't have the proof, that I'm gonna have less energy going forward. So I need to have positive proof so I feel better going forwards. And to be honest, those who are successful, the levels that we all admire, they don't operate like that. They operate in a sense of it doesn't matter if I like it or not. It's just what has to happen. I coach kids in tackle football, And one of the parents wrote an email to the league, and it said, my kid didn't have fun at practice yesterday. And in my head, I go, first off, who is the kid so I can cuss their mom out? And the other part of me goes like, it's not supposed to be fun every day. That is not what it's about. You know what's fun? Winning the game. Feeling confident. You know what's not fun? I took it easy on you. You get your butt kicked in the game and you have to go home and your mom goes, honey, why'd you get put in your tail? And you go into your room and play video games. You eat food because you feel unhappy and you get all chubby because your confidence wasn't there. Why? Because I took it easy on you. And that's the thing is, while it, yes, psychologically, neurologically, BJ Fogg has a great book called Tiny Habits. It talks about the same stuff. And yes, to our brain, it's 100% true, but it plays to the weaker mentality of society. Here's the crazy thing. I'm gonna be honest. I've been saying this recently, and this is the truth. If you look at the people that we admire, give me a couple names. I'm gonna be honest. Give me a couple. Who you think like you look up to and you admire.
You.
Appreciate that.
You. I think of Goggins. Man, there's a lot of people. Jay Shetty, I think of.
Jay's dope.
I love me some Lewis Howes. Just
name
Mel Robbins, like those, all the people that I'd like to.
Yeah, you're naming a bunch of people I know. And I'm going to give you an honest truth. I'm not talking to you specifically when I say this. Let's start adding other people. Let's put in the LeBron James of the world. Let's put in the Tiger Woods. Put in the Serena Williams. Let's pop in there the Oprah. Let's put in the Jay-Z, the P. Diddy, right? People would go, man, I want to be around. I want to shake their hand. Here's the truth. A lot of the people that you look up to, that I look up to, if I was to go in a room with them, they wouldn't want to hang out with me. It's the truth. There's a lot of people we see like the stars, because think about what LeBron has to do to be prepared for the game. And Kobe talks about, like, you got to have a dog in you, man. You got to practice, you got to play, no complaints, get it done, keep pushing, right? Most of humanity can't do that. That's why they don't play at his level. And there's this enamored part of us that goes, I want to be around and see. I'm like, yeah, but you would probably hate the fact that if you got in that room with that person and look at you and be like, what did you just say? Man, get this dude out of here. We don't talk like that. You know, like, because your natural set point is not at that identity level, or you'd have what's at that identity level. And the reality is that mentality doesn't go, let me find the habit that best suits how I feel good about myself today. It's like, no, this is what it says. I got to get it done. That's the energy you have to have, because here's the truth. In the moment of competition, the fourth quarter, the last docket, I got to keep this client. I don't care what your wife wants to leave you. What happens is you draw on something that is not joy and optimism and like, I feel good about my habits. You draw on dark energy. It's like borderline anger. It's if you watch Kobe's eyes, if you watch Tiger's eyes, LeBron's eyes, if you watch Serena's eyes, the athletes we look at, there's this intensity that levels in. It's literally in their eyes. Like you can look and they got this, their mouth is clenching and they got this thing. It's like, like Tom Brady on the sideline. It's so intense and serious. It's the most important thing in the world. They're not drawing on joy right now. They're pulling from the years of workouts and practices and losses and wins and conversations and investment upon investment upon investment. So in this moment right now, you don't get to win. I will not lose. That's they pull from. The habits that they had in place were not designed around whether or not my brain likes it. No, this is what the dream demands. Whether I lock it or not, if I like and want this dream, I must do what the dream demands. And so there's a part of me that goes, I get it. The brain would like it. It's better. It feels good. But then also part of me goes, the brain isn't always designed in a way that's going to get me what I want. The brain's goal is for adaptation. I'm reading this great book right now just called Greatness. I don't even know. It's a white book that says greatness in tiny writing. And he talks to it. The brain is not designed to perfect something. It's designed to adapt. Adapt. Yeah. The only way you'll adapt is if you put yourself in comfortable situations, things you don't like doing, to adapt to it. So if I go into a situation and I go, it's too hard, let me change the habit, I don't adapt. I go back and try something else. So while 100% I get it, and I think there is validity to those statements that Fogg says and Clear says, there's amazingness within it because they say some similar things. The core of it, the guttural part of it is you have to adapt to it. And typically adaptation sucks.
It's the hard truth that you're giving people that they need to hear that maybe we're neglecting. And I think the mindset, like you were speaking about with all of the greats and everything that they do, I think they see it as more of a necessity than an option, right? It's the mindset of people don't change until the pain of staying the same becomes more painful than making a change. Mm-hmm. And I think that when they see it as such as like, this is a necessity, like I'm not going to allow this as any less than it's a standard instead of an expectation for yourself, right?
Mm-hmm. For saying it, yeah.
For you, like after football, that must have been a big step. And by the way, I'm a massive Steelers fan, so
Oh,
let's
nice.
go Pittsburgh.
There you go.
Take us through like your experience and I want to say internal narrative too about like stepping out of football. I mean, throughout that period of time, that was your identity. I mean, how did you shift out of
Yeah,
that
sure I was.
to entrepreneurship?
That's the hard part is when you've been doing something for a long period of time and you can't do it anymore, you question your value to the world. It just
Yeah.
sucks. I mean, it's just the nature of humanity. We have things happen. Well, I had it happen in sports. It can happen in, you go off to the military, leave the military.
Yep.
You have a business, you sell the business and you don't know what to do with yourself now, or you had a job and you leave the job. Like it could be choice or by chance, something changes. And for me in football, it was not a fun thing because I'm like, well, who am I? Who's a guy and what value do I have? And then there's the mentality I had earlier was like, well, I'm no good at anything else. So am I going to just sit around? And you realize, like, I had to realize later on that I wasted years because the truth of it was I never actually was incapable. I just wasn't reapplying what I already knew to do. I was questioning my getting great. That was it. I obviously wasn't great at business, but I could get great at something. I want to be one of the greatest in the world at my sport out of billions of humans, right? So I could get great at something, but I wasn't applying that concept. And so for me, when I came out of that, I had the wrong focus for a few years. When I finally set it up and go, wait. Like I got an ability that most people don't have to focus, to stay dialed, to be organized, to execute, to lean in when people don't, to draw on my darkness that most people won't draw on because they don't have it. I could be great if I lean in, and I leaned in and I drew on that. I started pushing myself differently and I recreated a whole different sense of who I was and my skill sets. And I still do that. It's the nature of my humanity. And there's a reason why I have success and I have a sense of peace and I have all these. It's because I worked. I just worked for it. Not even that I outworked somebody else, right? I just outworked my old self. And when you outwork your old self into the new self, you don't miss the old guy.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like you were speaking with Dion earlier. It's like the confidence that I don't have to be better than anyone else, but I don't have to compare myself to anyone else. That's where the confidence is. There's no comparison.
No, at a certain point, you're just too dope. It's just what you do. It's just, I'm talking through his eyes because he obviously was a way better, more known player than me. But like the level where like, okay, how does Dion keep pushing the envelope? Well, Dion keeps pushing it because his set point isn't a destination. It's an activity every day. It's what he does every day. It's the way you show up, the way you flow. You do certain things so consistently that's just what the natural thing of your life turns into. It's not about the destination you set. So at a certain point, like goals are great for direction, right? And goals are great because you feel accomplished when you achieve them.
Right.
But at a certain point, the goal becomes the traction towards the goal. And the goal might change. People go, what if the finish line moves? Cool. Do you enjoy running the race or crossing the finish line? Right? Because if you enjoy running the race, oh man, it doesn't matter what the thing goes. You're loving the process. The finish line's a cherry on top, right? But if you only feel happy when the finish line's there, you'll stop the second it moves. And it moves often because life is life.
Yeah, it's the man that likes walking will walk further than the person that is walking to get to a destination, right?
100%.
I know. So to go back from 14, 15, and you were in Mr. Hall's class, right? You heard that, and then you asked yourself a question based on that, like what does an NFL player do? And so that changed the direction of your life. I find that the questions we ask ourselves direct the answers that we get in life, of course. I'm curious for you, like if you could put one question by your bedside table and read it every single morning, what would that question be?
That's a good one. If my hero followed me around today, what would they say? It's one that it's an interesting one because a lot of us go, what would my better self do? What would my future self do? There's actually a study by UCLA called The Stranger Inside or something, and they had these diodes hooked up to people's brains. And on one side, they would, ask a person, tell me about this person. They'd show a picture of someone they loved. Love lights up. And they go, okay, show me about this person. How you feel? And it's like a stranger. And so stranger would light up in the brain. They said, tell me about your future self. And stranger lit up in the brain. Everybody. And the question that would go is, why is that? Well, because there's no intimate connection to the future self. Therefore, I don't make sacrifice for that person. If I don't know someone, I don't respect them and I don't love them. Therefore, I don't sacrifice for them. Why would I do that? If it's my wife and someone I just met and there's a bullet coming, I'm saving my wife, right? And so when I think about this for future self, if we don't know our future self or love our future self, we don't sacrifice. In fact, Merrill Lynch took this data, and they put it into their stuff to be able to have people actually invest. They found people invested 40% more in their future when faced with their future self, right? So it's a different idea because they could see a picture of themselves and it brought this emotion towards it. And so what I look at is when we're looking at this idea of choice and decision, the question I ask myself is, if my hero, and my hero could be different in different areas, right? It could be my God, it could be my family, it could be one of my kids, who knows, right? There's whoever my hero may be in my life. And right now, for me, I got a lot of heroes. There's a hero in my life that I think ties to like my work ethic and how I show up. There's a couple of people that are actual colleagues, and I go, man, for being a dad, like that's one of my heroes. And so what I do is I go, if this person followed me around for a day, what would they say? And I look at my schedule and I go, are there things on my calendar that would get me there? Do I do the morning routine? Am I calling my son? Am I doing an evening routine with my daughter? Am I spending time with my wife? Am I doing these things? And so what happens is when you ask that question, it presents you with answers. Let's say that we bring back The Rock, for example. Well, myself, I go, do I want to get up at 4 in the morning? Immediately my brain goes, no, you don't. Why would you do that, right? But I go, okay, well, I want to be an actor like The Rock. The Rock gets up at 4 in the morning. Because you asked the question, what does my hero do? Do I want to get up at 4? No. But if I want what The Rock has, I got to get up at 4 in the morning. It's not a question anymore. It's just, that's the answer. And so when I ask that question, what would my hero do? Or what would they say if they follow me around for a day? That will create for you a set of actions. Mm-hmm. It'll set a set of actions out front. Your job now is to go, am I willing in this current identity to stretch into the future identity by following these specific actions? When the answer is yes and you do it, you get that thing. If you don't feel bad when you don't.
Yeah. It's I live by this mindset that life is simple, not easy. And when we ask the right questions, we're going to get the right answers. But oftentimes we're asking questions that we don't really want the answer to.
True.
And so we live our life, and I think our subconscious knows it, right? That we could create a life that we would love to live, but our subconscious knows that we're not giving it our all. And I think that's a big aspect, and that hits our self-identity. Mm-hmm. What lesson has taken you the longest to learn?
What lesson has taken me? You can't want more for someone than they want for themselves. It's a tie to relationships. I think that we all don't really grasp are incredibly important. Yeah. Because all of our relationships are important, but the truth is all the things I enjoy are because of the people in my life. But if I desire more for someone than they want for them, then what happens is I create this space where they don't feel like I appreciate them, or they feel like I'm judging them. And then it causes strife because, like, say my kids, I go, like my oldest son, he runs track at the University of Oregon. He tried playing football for a few years, and I wanted him to play football, right? But he didn't want to play football. And so because I had the things I would try to get him to do, like he would never do, and it was always pulling teeth, and it caused like a stretch in a relationship. It was difficult. I didn't support him where he wanted to, therefore he didn't express himself to be the best he could at something. And then one day, and through some tears, he goes, Dad, I don't want to play anymore. And it wasn't because of me. He just didn't want to play. Like he played freshman year, but at this time was the right time to say it to me. And I go, son, I don't care what you do. I played professional football. I don't need to live through you, dude. Like I did it. I know what it's like. So whatever you want to do, just go do it. And so because I didn't want that for him, want more for him, he found a thing he wanted. And my job was to help him in what he desired. So it caused like a connection more than a disdain or him feeling less than because he wasn't doing this thing, right? Same in my relationship. Like if I have a marriage, right? No matter what it is, if I want more for you than you want, you feel like I'm judging you and you feel less than. And you also, if it's your thing, you don't feel like drawn to do it anymore. Therefore, you don't do it. It becomes another headache. So I try to avoid that feeling. And that's the one that took me a while to actually get, because you're around people. Also, I got a best friend who I love what he does. And part of me goes, man, you are the most business educated employee I've ever met.
Yeah.
He likes what his job provides for him, but he knows so much about my world that it's crazy that he's not in my world. But I can't want that for him. If I do, it cause problems. Here's what I want. I want people in my vicinity who are doing things that make them happy, because they come together with me and I am not having to supply them happy. They're doing something, getting their own happy. We bring it to the dinner table. We're all happy. But if I'm happy and you're not, you don't want me happy. You do pull it down, you poke at me. What are you smiling about, right? It's no joy, man. So I had to take a while to learn that one.
I'm still learning it. That's something that's definitely I'm going through. When I jumped into entrepreneurship, it was a big, and in personal development, it was a big step for me that really shifted. And I'm grateful that you brought that in, because I think there's a lot of people in that same position. There's a last question I ask every one of the guests that I bring on, and it kind of encapsulates what I'm trying to do with this podcast and helping people unlearn beliefs that stop them from achieving life they deserve to live. Now, the question is, what belief are you currently unlearning?
Unlearning. What belief am I currently unlearning? Let's see. Let me lay out the list of things that I believe, man. I'm unlearning a little bit of the belief that I have to be the one to press my faith on everybody else. Not that I do it, but there's a part of me that felt like sad or like, man, I'm not actually going to be a disciple for my faith as much as I should.
Yeah.
And then I realized like that's not really always the way to be a great disciple. I think there is a way to be it of going and bringing people to that, that world. But then at the same time, I think there's also a space where I can live my life and do what I do and be a shining example of it. So when somebody asks, how in the world are you how you are? I can go, oh, because of my faith. It's still discipleship, but it's not this throw a Bible at your face. It's more of like, you're hungry? Oh, you want a bite? Kind of thing.
Yeah. Anthony, I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to have you on the show. I know that they're going to get a lot of value, whoever listens to this. For those that want to find you, where can they find you, Anthony?
At Anthony Trucks on Instagram, man. It's the fastest way to find me. And I'm actually a person that interacts on there.
Amen to it. That's why you're here. I appreciate you for coming on the show, brother. I can't express my gratitude enough. Thank you.
No problem at all. Very welcome.